Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Stavi Unboxes. It's still a work in progress, that title, but today we have something very exciting to look over. Keen-eye viewers may notice some things here in front of me. Goodman Games. This is not what we're going over. No. We're not doing this. At least not yet. But not this. No. This is something that I've been hyping up for a while, and I have been patiently waiting for this to come out. And it has finally arrived. It took forever, but it's finally here. I did open the box just to take a look at it, but everything inside here is still very much untouched. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has watched my last episode when I went very extensively into old school essentials. That video was pretty successful despite me spending a lot of time, like 2 hours, going over the ins and outs of that Kickstarter. But it seems like people really enjoyed it, and you know, I'm a big fan of other systems that aren't strictly Dungeons and Dragons, and so that's going to carry over to this episode where we finally take a look at before we get into this, I just want to say one thing. Be sure to, if you haven't yet, check out our podcast. We host a podcast by I mean myself, my buddy Dan, and Mike Cosmic Key. We run a podcast called Crithalla. You can check it out basically on every single streaming platform. On there, we have 2 shows now. We started off with a show called DM's Discuss, where we basically go over a bunch of different topics that have to do with being a game master for a tabletop role-playing game, or even so much from like a player's perspective. And we go over a bunch of different topics, and I like to think that it's pretty informative. We have 3 different generations of game masters. We have Mike, who's been doing it for, a long time, since like the early 90s, I believe. We have myself. I've been doing it for about a decade, a little over a decade now. And then we have Dan, who just started a few years ago. So 3 different perspectives, 3 different pools of ideas and inspirations and stuff like that. So feel free to check that out. And the second show that we have is now called Talkin' Tabletop, where we present to you guys various different game systems, and we go over it, and we sort of look at it as like a sales pitch. We are not endorsed at the moment by any company to do these videos. We just look at other game systems that we are fans of personally, and we try to pitch the idea to our fellow co-hosts of the game system itself. And so every season of the show, there's going to be 3 episodes. Each person, Dan, Mike, and myself, will pick a game system, kind of do like a brief overview review of it, and try to pitch it to the rest of us. At the end of the season, once all 3 of us have chosen a game, we have you guys vote on which game system you like the best. Whichever one wins, Mike, Dan, and myself, we will do a one-shot using that system. Maybe we'll even bring in some other people, so that way we can have like a big party involved in these different tabletop systems. Mike just did a video we just did a video with Mike presenting Mutants and Masterminds. Excellent system. Definitely check that out. Dan has another video coming up soon. He has a system in mind that looks very awesome and very metal. And then I also have a system that I'm very interested in that I'm going to be showcasing to you guys pretty soon. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the thing I've been hyping up for, like, I don't know, 12 episodes on Crithalla now. We are looking at the Avatar Legends role-playing game. There's a lot of stuff in here. My partner and I, we invested in the Kickstarter really, really early on. As soon as it was announced, basically, we went with the Flying Bison tier, which is like a $200 or $250 tier. And it comes with a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to pretty much get into that right now. As you can see, everything is still very much in the plastic. We haven't even had the opportunity to open anything up yet. So let's go ahead and take all this stuff out, and we'll be right back, and we're going to see what's in this box. So stay tuned. Okay, so what you see here is everything that came in the Flying Bison tier of Avatar Legends. We got some dice, we got some combat action decks, we got some dice bags, we got a map with a pie show piece. This looks pretty cool, but we'll look more deeply into this. We have the core rule book. Now, there were two different variants that you can get for this, but we'll go over that. And then this is, I believe, I'm not really sure what this is. I forget what this was. But again, there's a running joke in our podcast about me forgetting the company who manufactured this, and it was Magpie Games. I remember now. I'm sorry, Magpie. Don't get mad at me. And they were responsible for doing a pretty famous game called Root, where you play as a bunch of cute little forest animals, and it's also a pretty awesome role-playing game. It's even on Steam, I believe. But this is everything that it comes with. Oh, also the Wan Shi Tong's Adventure Guide. This is, so if you look at the Kickstarter, there were going to be a bunch of separate books for the different eras of Avatar. So there was like the Kyoshi era, the Aang era, the Korra era, and I do want to say there was another era, but I don't quite remember. But anyway, there were a bunch of different adventure modules, if you will. They have all been subsidized and put into the Wan Shi Tong's Adventure Guide. But yeah, this is everything that it came with. So let's get cracking and see what this stuff actually is. I think we're gonna go ahead and let's start with this. Start with the flag, or the map rather. So there is quite a lot of bit of plastic with this, which I guess is fine. I'm personally not a fan of a lot of plastic, but anyway, so we have right here this pie show piece. It looks awesome. It's resin, it's plastic, but it has like these really nice grooves on it. And yeah, no, this is really cool. I don't think it has any mechanical usage in the game itself. But it does look pretty damn cool. I'm a big fan of this. And so now we look at the map. Now the map itself does have a function in that you could actually use it for gameplay purposes. This is legitimately a fabric, like a canvas map, and it's extremely high quality. The color on this, the stitching, the printing, all of it looks really good. I realize that I'm holding the world upside down here because everybody knows that Ba Sing Se is over here. You got the Fire Nation, you got the different water tribes, you got the air nomads, of course you got the Earth Kingdom. You got everything here, and it all looks really, really good. I'm a big fan of the stitching along the edging to help prevent against any future fraying. Obviously a lot of design and thought, or a lot of thought was put into the design of this map, and honestly, I would use this for a game, sure. Use it as like a centerpiece, especially if you're doing a lot of theater of the mind stuff, because I'd imagine that miniatures and stuff like that would be very difficult to do, mostly with this game system, which I'm still, for the most part, unfamiliar with. I have not played Root, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure how the game system actually operates because I have not had a chance to play, even though this has been sitting in a box in my my office for a while now, and I'm only just getting to this. So, but we'll look into that. Maybe we'll do a one shot of this. Who knows? But anyway, the map looks amazing. Big fan of the map. Well done. Well done. This is genuinely a high quality map. We'll get a closer look at at the stitching, so you can get more detail. You can see that it is canvas, and it looks really good. Very, 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 very well done. So you may notice that we have 2 dice bags. During the Kickstarter, they gave 2 tiers for dice bags, and one was like a premium tier, and one was just, you know, a dice bag. So I don't know which one is which. This one is made out of leather. As you can see around the edging, it does have the 4 nations there. You know, fire, earth, water, air. It's got all the 4 nations. It's made out of like this faux leather. There is like a suede kind of material on the inside, which looks and feels really nice. I'd imagine this would take care of your dice pretty well. If we want to just fold it inside out real quick, take a look at that fabric. Very soft, very soft. So I don't think this one is the premium dice bag. I think that honor goes to this one right here. But nonetheless, this is a really solid dice bag. I'm actually a big fan of this. And I like the simplistic design of it. Sure, this one has the colors for the 4 different nations, but just like this silver printed on, and it's embossed, funny enough. It's not just like screen printed where over time it'll chip away. It seems like it was fused to the leather itself. So again, another example of really high quality print and really high quality design from Magpie Games. And now we're going to look at this dice bag. Now, it seems like this dice bag doesn't have the same soft inner material that the other dice bag had. It's still not very abrasive. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It just doesn't feel as soft as the other one does. However, this is made out of some sort of velvet. It feels like velvet. And as you can see, it has the 4 different nations: earth, fire, wind, and air. And just generally speaking, it looks pretty dang awesome. And of course, this is all stitched. So no chance of fraying, no chance of scraping whatsoever. And then you have the Avatar Legends logo right there. This, I can't tell if this is metal or plastic. It's got kind of like a plasticky feel to it. But it's cold like metal, or maybe it could just be because it's cold here where I live. But awesome dice bag. Speaking of dice, I think the next thing that we should look at here is the dice itself. So the tier that we got came with two different sets of dice. You got premium dice, which is in this boy here, and then we got just the basic game dice. I could tell you right now, just from looking at the packaging, that even the base dice looks awesome. The coloration, the marble effect, the printing of earth, fire, wind, air, mechanical for like Asumi, and then boomerang for non-airbender or non-benders. But let's take a look at this. Avatar Legends, the role-playing game, helps you tell your own heroic tales in the world of Avatar, The Last Airbender, and The Legend of Korra. This pack of engraved dice contains 6 pairs of 6-sided dice usable in Avatar Legends, the role-playing game. Each pair bears the color and symbols of one of the 6 different trainings of heroes in this world. And it has it listed here: airbending, waterbending, earth, fire, weapons, and technology. So let's go ahead and get this cracked open. And let's take a look at the basic dice. And while I'm doing that, I just want to quickly say, you know, the success that we've been getting with the Crithalla podcast has been an amazing experience for all 3 of us, Mike, Dan, and myself, to really have gone through over the last year. And we have a lot more things, a lot more plans in store for the expansion of sort of our community that we've been growing here. And just want to say again, if you guys are new sort of to this ecosystem, again, my name is Stavi. We have a podcast called Crithalla. It's on every streaming service, so feel free to check that out. And we started dabbling into unboxing stuff for like Kickstarter things. Now, me personally, I don't speak on behalf of Crithalla when it comes to what I'm about to say, but I personally am not really a fan of where Wizards of the Coast has taken Dungeons and Dragons, just generally speaking, but I'm not going to get too in depth on that. I'm more of a fan of like really obscure and alternative game systems. So stuff like Old School Essentials, which technically does take its inspiration from the SRDs of older editions of D&D. But then there's also stuff like this where it doesn't even use a D20. It doesn't even use like D4s, D6s, D8s, D10s, anything like that. It's just all D6, but with symbols, and we'll get into that. So with these unboxings, hopefully there are people out there who get introduced to other systems that aren't just strictly 5th edition D&D and go out and enjoy just playing role-playing games with your friends and family and strangers at your local game stores. Anyway, let's take a look at these dice. Got to be careful with this boxing. Bend that over real quick. All right, so there is an empty box. And inside, oh, wait, hang on. These are D6s. They are numbered 4, 2, 3, 5. And then I guess the 6 is the actual logo of the dice itself. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this open. I don't think I do have an X-Acto blade here. So let's go ahead and very carefully, without damaging the die, hopefully. All right, so I'm not going to take them all out, but I'm going to take out 3 of these just to sort of show you the quality of these die. So right here we have the water bending die. Oop, get it in frame, that might help. Yeah, the print on this looks amazing. The sort of icy, kind of watery visage that this dice has is very indicative of a waterbender for sure. And God, the light refractions and everything in this die just look really good. And same thing with the earthbending one. Feels very earthy. We can get that in focus, please. Yeah, there we go. Feels very earthy, feels very jade, like rock and gemstone, and sort of, yeah. No, this looks really good. And I did kind of want to take a look at the Fire Nation. You know what? We're just going to screw it. We'll do it live. Taking it all out. I should probably put this blade away before I hurt myself. So let's take a look at the Fire Nation die. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, look at that coloration right there. You see that? Big fan of die, just in general. I'm kind of a collector of dice. I like really cool dice. I like dice that are unique. And the coloration on this die is no different. This looks like smoldering coal or like ember or something like that. Yeah. Really well done. Big fan of this. And then, of course, we have weapons, which are a black die. And then we have technology, like a Sumi, which is more of like a purple die. Yeah, these are great. Yeah. Okay, so those are the basic die. Although not anything particularly too crazy and astounding, they are really high quality die, and I'm particularly a fan of them. But now we have to take a look at the premium dice box right here. And now this dice box comes in sort of like this jeweler's box, which is pretty amazing. This is the first time I'm actually seeing these dice. I don't know what they look like, but let's get a nice zoom in there, just so that way we can take a look at these together. So, okay. We are presented with a foam padding. Oh my God. Are each of these dice, they're individually wrapped? That's a lot of plastic. Okay, so each bag is a die. And each die is in a little baggie, which I can't say that I'm a fan of, mostly because I do not like excess use of plastic if it can be helped. But good lord, these are some of the coolest die I think I've ever seen. Wow. Okay, so this is a Fire Nation die, as you can tell. It's got, so the feel of it, so this is not printed on just on the surface. It is embossed, or rather it's carved into this die. The die feels incredibly heavy. I do not know if this die is metal or not, but it's hard to tell. If I had a magnet or something, that might help. I don't think I have a magnet nearby. But you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then of course you have the symbol for the die. So this one is Fire Nation. God, this looks amazing. Okay. Big fan of the Fire Nation. May as well just take all these dice out. God, this is such a waste of plastic. I am not a fan of the plastic. This one is water. You can see there, the water. Also looks really cool. The only gripe that I have about this is, so it's like this black matte material, and it seems like on the edges there's more shine than the surfaces. I'm afraid that after extensive use that maybe this will wear and tear. I don't know if there was any quality control on prolonged use of these dice, like shaking them together and throwing them and having them click and clack against whatever sort of dice tray you may have. I don't know if this is going to fade over time, but maybe I'll do a recap of this. Maybe I'll do like just a very basic post on one of Crithalla's social media stuff, just to give like an update of how these dice wound up surviving. So we got another Fire Nation. So another gripe I have with these dice is because they're all this flat black material, and it seems like the foil that they use for these engravings. We have an Earth Kingdom there. Oh, you guys can't even see it. Hang on. Here, let's zoom out, and we'll put fire, fire, water, and earth. It does look really cool, though. But there is no distinctive features. They're all plain black die with, like, the only way you can tell is by really looking at the die. At least with the non-premium dice, they're color-coded. You can tell from a glance which die belongs to, what do they call these? Different trainings. These look kind of samey. But they do look cool. I'm a big fan of these. It would just be hard to know what exactly you're rolling unless you look very carefully. This one is weapons, so this is very much a Sokka die, or really any non-bender. Speaking of airbenders, we have airbending right there. Yeah, this is an excessive amount of plastic. Oh, you know what? These colors are different. As you can see, the water bending, the one on the top is like a yellowish green, whereas this one is more of a purple. And the same thing with the fire. There's more yellow here and more purple there. It's interesting. So there is slight variations. Not enough to distinguish what's what from just from looking at it, though. Although I do suppose that... So I'm looking at the number 3 here, and you can see around the number 3 there is a boomerang. And... oh, you know what? It makes one continuous image. How cool is that? So, 1... I don't know if that swings over to 2, but it looked like 2 and 3 kind of connected together. So you can see how 2 kind of has like this swoosh, and then it comes back around, and then the boomerang. The design is cool. I'll admit, I am a fan of the actual designs of the symbols. This one appears to be air. Yep. That one definitely is air. Again, the other ones sort of have like these designs. Here's earth, and you can see that the earth is way different than that one. This one's definitely more green, whereas that one has like a purplish tone to it. And around the 5, you could see like boulders and rocks. Around 1, around 3, 2. So overall, really great design. I just kind of wish that there was an easier way to distinguish the different trainings. 2 is all right. So this one is the technology. You can see all the gears and cogs and stuff like that. This one's pretty cool as well. Kind of a fan of this one. All right, and the very last over consumption of plastic baggie here. Yeah, and there we go. So these are the premium die. I am a fan of it. I think they look absolutely incredible as a showpiece. I don't know if I would actually use these in game because I do have a fear of that black sort of powder coated material eventually chipping away over extensive use, especially when you're clicking these guys together. These are not light, the die themselves. At least they're not as light as the basic die for sure. They're a little bit more hardier, I would say. But yeah, okay, so that's the die. They look cool. Overall, like if I were to rate so if I'm rating things, maybe I should. I'm just doing this off the cuff, but the die here, they're functional, they roll, they look great. I would say that, you know, for basic die, these would probably out of I don't know, a 10 would probably get like a 7.5 or an 8. They're functional, they look great, there's nothing too flashy, nothing too crazy about them. I love that they're color-coded. It makes it very easy to determine what's being rolled. As far as these, design and stuff like that, definitely higher up on the scale, probably 8, 9. The design is really, really cool. I love sort of like this case-hardened, going back to my Counter-Strike days, the sort of case-hardened look of the variation in color, and how every number has a distinctive feature that shows that what training it's under. But for practicality use and prolonged use, that's to be determined. I don't know. I can't really say definitively how I feel about them. They're cool looking, but I don't know if they're very practical, but we'll see. Anyway, enough about dice. Moving on. What should we look at next? Let's take a look at these folders here. Oh, sorry, Ang. Zoomed out a little too far. Let's take a look at these. I'm not sure what these are, to be honest. But there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books in here. You know, these might be representative of the different trainings that exist. So let's take a look at that. They really do a good job at making sure that you can't open these, though. Being very careful not to cut the book. Okay, there we go. Again, more plastic, probably not necessary. They could have wrapped it in like a paper ribbon or something, and that I think that would have been just fine. Okay, so it looks like we have air, fire, earth, and water, and then we have this sort of Aang and Korra kind of split down the middle, which this looks pretty cool. Let's take a look at what these are. It is a blank notebook. It's a blank notebook. That's all it is. A blank notebook. Nothing special about the sheets. They're plain white. It is staple bound. Artwork's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of like this matte material. It definitely feels better than any gloss. In fact, it looks like, I don't know if you can see that, but it has sort of like this grid kind of printing on it. yeah, that picks up pretty well. So it's not just like a flat, and that translates across all the books. It's not just like a flat material. There is some texture to it, and it does feel really nice. It does give you like a better grip for page flipping and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what you use these for, though. If anybody knows, please feel free to mention it in the comments. But there is one for Aang and Korra. There is one for the Water Tribe. I'm guessing that these are simply just player notebooks. So like if you have somebody who is earth, fire, wind, or air, and water, you just give these to them depending on what characters they're playing. But like, what if you have two people who want to be earth, or two people who want to be multiple, or multiple people who want to be multiple? Again, you might be just better off using a regular notebook. These are cool. I just don't see them being very practical when you have multiple people because they're so specialized. You know, like if everyone had Aang and Korra on it, I mean, I guess that would be kind of cool because then it doesn't matter what nation their character is playing as. They still have a notebook that is Avatar themed, even though it's not very specific to their characters. The problem with this, like I said, is if multiple people want to play a particular nation, you only just have the 4 books. I suppose you could buy more, and it's nice that they do give you 4 for the different nations, but I don't know. It's a cool concept. I am a fan of them. The quality of them is just genuinely really good. I could see this being like a shadow box, perhaps. I don't know if this is something that I would use. I don't even know if these are being sold separately. Again, if you guys know this information, please feel free to share it, and because I don't know at this moment. But either way, they look great. If they're readily available at local game stores, I could see these being even better, especially depending on how they are priced. I do like that in the background there is the 4 elements across all of these. You can't really see it on the Water Tribe one, but it is back there. You can kind of see it. It's very vague. Same thing with the Fire Nation, but you could definitely see it on the Air Nation. It has the four nations. So yeah, again, if these are readily available at local game stores and they're priced fairly, I could see these being super useful. But and it's nice that they do include them with this particular set. But it seems like, I mean, it's a good basis to start, but I feel like you're going to absolutely need to expand on these books. You might just be better off using regular margined lined notebooks for these. But anyway, moving on. They're nice. Don't get me wrong, they're nice, but it just seems like you're going to need more than what's been provided for you. Gods know they gave us plenty of plastic bags. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at this before we head into the books. And these are, oh, actually, I don't need to do that because, like a pack of cards, there is more plastic. There is that pool tab. Okay, so combat action deck. Let's zoom in on this real quick. So we have this combat action deck with Aang on the front. Let's take a look at what it says. Avatar Legends role-playing game features expert fighters, be they flame-wielding firebenders, ice-throwing waterbenders, or mech-driving technologists. Eventually, they'll face foes who won't quit without a fight. That's when combat exchanges begin. The combat action deck makes combat exchanges as smooth and easy to play as possible. It includes 9 sets of stance cards, 1 for each player. The basic techniques tied to each stance. Art of your favorite legendary characters. Ooh, art cards. 28 status cards to track whether you're empowered, doomed, favored, or more. Okay, so there are status effects that you can get, a la paralyzed, prone, that sort of thing. Just worded differently, I guess. Maybe they have different mechanics. I'm not entirely sure. But let me. Oh, good lord. So it. All right. So I think most of the cost of this was probably in plastic, because it sounds like the cards themselves, even despite this being wrapped in plastic, the cards are also wrapped in plastic, it sounds like. So here, give me a moment and I will try to open these. Okay, I finally managed to open these. That was the most difficult box I think I've ever opened for cards. Made a little too well, if anything. So here we go again. Now, mind you, the box itself was wrapped in plastic, and now the cards are wrapped in plastic. That's just, it's a lot. It's excessive. I mean, each individual dice had its own baggie. And like, if they were worried about wear and tear of the dice, that doesn't really bode well for actual use if they had to wrap each individual one in its own safety bag. But yeah, just an excessive amount of plastic usage. Guys, I genuinely have an entire pile of plastic over here. But let's take a look at these cards. All right, so you have Aang, and these are kind of, well, they are glossy on both sides. We're going to look at the top cover. So we have Aang, we have Korra, we have Zuko, Toph. Oh, Tenzin. Honestly, Tenzin was in my opinion what really carried Korra. Whenever Tenzin showed up, it was always a very, very good time. I think Tenzin might actually be my absolute favorite character in all of Korra. Oh, we have Suki. I'm glad that they gave her some appreciation. We have Azula. We have Spike Spiegel. We have Jet. Okay, and here's some of the status cards. It's weird that they would go with Jet. I mean, no Sokka love? I mean, there's Sokka, but like they put him as a status card. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at the Aang cards. So evade, observe, advance and attack, defend and maneuver. I suppose these are different combat actions that you can take. They all appear to be identical across the different characters. Again, I'm not familiar with Root's RPG system. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But it seems like each of these characters, yeah, they all have I'm sorry, his name is Amon. I know that, but whatever. But it seems like, I mean, okay. So you have these character cards, and then you have different status. So you have Doomed. That's pretty brutal. They decided to go with this art. Status is favored. Okay, so all the different status cards. There's a lot of Doomed. Doomed, favored, impaired, and empowered. Oh, Iroh, finally. I'm surprised they didn't give him his own card. They have to be aware that Iroh is a fan favorite, right? Like, they have to know. Trapped and inspired. There's Toph. And then stunned and prepared Zuko. So Zuko is featured here twice. And yet some of these characters, like Bolin, is only featured once. Sokka's only featured once, and he's a status card, and same thing with Toph. Like, these are primary characters. It's weird that they didn't get their own art card. It's weird that they went with I mean, Tenzin, sure, that I have a bias. I like Tenzin, but to like have, and Suki, of course, and Azula, that makes sense. But to like have Amon, to have Jet, of all the characters, people like Jet and people like Amon. Don't get me wrong. I think Amon is the most powerful villain across every Avatar, because yeah, he was a disgustingly scary person. Okay, so yeah, there you go. There's some cards. Cool. I don't know the practicality of them, but they're pretty neat, I guess, as like reference cards for your players, but I would have to see them in play. But yeah, overall, this product in particular, I'll have to actually play a game to see its usefulness, but as it stands right now, I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of these cards. But we'll see. Again, I'm not getting like paid or sponsored by Magpie Games to review this, so like, believe me, I will be as candid as possible with the quality of these products. So now that just leaves us with two books. We have the core rules, and we have the Wan Shi Tong's adventure guide. I think we're going to go ahead and start with Wan Shi Tong. And again, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I really appreciate it. The guys over at Crithalla really appreciate it. If you're just checking us out, feel free to take a look at my other review of the Old School Essentials. Link for that I will put in the description once this gets uploaded. And be sure to check out our podcast as well. We have a lot of really interesting things going on over there. I would love to see you guys be a part of the community. We're in the talks of setting up a Discord. You know, we have our primary page is Crithalla D&D memes over on Facebook. Yeah. So welcome if you are new to the community. I really appreciate you guys stopping by, if only just to look at our unboxings. So here's the book. First off, I'm gonna ding having these corners bent as badly as they are. That in my opinion is very unacceptable when it came in a giant box with so much packaging. Probably to no fault of the creators at all. But that is unfortunate that, you know, you spend $200 and something and the corner of your book is completely like accordioned into itself. So that's not happy about that. But let's take a look at the overall book. So the Wan Shi Tong's Adventure Guide, let's get a quick rundown of this. It expands the play material found in the role-playing game with new NPC legends from every era, new techniques for each of the 6 trainings, and new character archetypes, packed with unique moves and character arcs. In addition, Wan Shi Tong invites you to explore the Avatar verse, as they're calling it. No TM, but there it is. In new and exciting adventures from every era, you might rescue a mentor from the clutches of evil villains, help negotiate peace at a prestigious summit, aid a Fire Nation defector as they flee Fire Lord Ozai's wrath, or even recover long-lost Air Nomad artifacts. So 4 new character playbooks, archetypes that help you play compelling protagonists, 5 exciting adventures that span the eras of Kyoshi, Roku, the 100 Years' War, Aang and Korra, 14 NPC legends, adored characters such as Toph, Varric, and Azula, each able to teach special techniques. You could actually have these characters as mentors if you find them in the game. Expanded material for exploring Wan Shi Tong's infamous spirit library. So very cool. First off, I just want to say it's very easy to see why this flexed, because for a hardcover book, it is very easy to bend this. I know there are people out there who are probably screaming through their screen right now, stop, you're hurting it. Look, hardcover books should not flex like this. So I could see this bending over time and leaving giant creases, and yeah, just be careful with your books, I guess. However, before we crack it open, I am seeing that there is a ribbon, and I'm seeing that it is also stitch bound. So kudos to them for doing that, at least. Again, there are still multi-million-dollar tabletop RPG companies that do not offer ribbons and stitch binding. I will let you peruse my vast collection on one condition, Wan Shi Tong. All right, cool. So unlike with Old School Essentials, I'm not going to go through the entirety of every single page like I did last time. We're pretty much just gonna go over some stuff. So Ranky is in here. That's awesome. Kyoshi, if you've read the Kyoshi novels. Yeah, look at that. Long Fang is in here. Azula. You could have Azula as teachers. You could play Azula. Where to find her, her techniques, what drives her. Katara as well. There's Sokka. And there are conditions. It's weird that they would have this stuff here to sort of determine their status. Because like this is implying that you would write in the book, right? These are check boxes. Maybe you could do like a photocopy. Photocopy, I think, would be easier. You got Suki, Toph. The artwork is pretty good. Ty Lee, of course, this was created in conjunction with I completely forget his name, his first name, DiMartino, who helped work on this. So a lot of people worked on this. Avatar Studios and Viacom. So Avatar Studios provided the artwork for this. This is all original artwork. Okay, so it says it's based on the Powered by the Apocalypse framework, originally developed by Miguel and Vincent Baker. So that's the game system that it's currently using. So if you're familiar with that game system, that's what's here. I am not seeing the creators of Atla being named here, although Avatar Studios and Viacom, but that's part of the art. You would think that they would be somewhere in here. In any case, you got Ty Lee. I know that they helped design this. Fire Lord Zuko. That's a cool piece of art. There's Asami. There's Kuvira. Tenzin, my boy. Varric, actual psycho. Different playbooks. So this is where you go into like character creation. These are ones. So these playbooks are available in here. They have a bunch of, from what I remember of the early access PDFs that they released, there are what they call playbooks, and playbooks are basically your character class, more or less. So, and each one has like its own special thing and different personalities, and these original characters that they've made for this are pretty cool. And again, this was created by Avatar Studios themselves. So it is the studio that created Avatar, have done all this work. It's not like OC characters made by Magpie. It's made by Avatar Studios themselves. So looks like he's got some spirit boys with him. That's kind of cool. There's different moves that you can do, marked by feet. I don't know what any of this stuff means, guys. I have no idea because I have not played this game system yet. You have the Elder, and I know there's like a yin and yang thing, like you get pulled between your two different principles. So like as you gain humility, it's this versus that for each of these characters. Kind of cool. Unity versus heritage. The Foundling. This looks pretty cool. The Razor. That's cool. So check this out. Earthbending girl, missing a hand, replaced with a rock. It's kind of dope. It's kind of dope to showcase characters with handicaps. I'm a big fan of that. Earth and Root. So here's the entire Kyoshi era adventure. It definitely tells you about more of the lore that has been established with the Kyoshi books. So if you wanted to play in this era with a character, you can play in the Kyoshi era. You know, maybe I haven't read the Kyoshi books, but my partner has, so she would definitely have more insight as to what's going on with that. And they also feature major characters that were in the Kyoshi novels. So Rangi, Mengiao, the Fanged Mercenary. So if you're familiar with the Kyoshi books, you're going to see Hana and people like that who were in the novels themselves, as well as important locations that were featured in the novelization of that. Dao Fei. Yeah, so pretty cool. Pretty cool, and pre-generated characters. So if you wanted to just very quickly, and here's one of the ribbons. Very cool that they made it green. I'm a fan of the green ribbon. So they have pre-generated characters here. So you have Tal the Adamant, who is a waterbender. You have Masaru the Bold, she, her, and I do like that they give the their pronouns there. That's kind of cool. Listen, guys, inclusivity doesn't hurt anybody. It helps people. You know, like it does more good than it does bad. It doesn't do bad at all. Let people be inclusive. Let everybody be able to enjoy video or board games or tabletop games, and any community for that matter. So I'm waiting. I doubt you will see this with the Atla community, because the Atla community tends to be a very open and welcoming community. So you won't see any pushback with like the designation of like identities here, but I'm just happy to see it is all I'm saying. So Masaru the Bold, a technologist. You have Sarnai the Guardian, who is a weapons expert. Jing, technologist. Quartz, earthbender. Fire and Brimstone is the Roku era. Very cool. Very cool. I'm not too familiar with Roku's era. I haven't read any books or anything like that would showcase anything. I feel like they may have had to possibly create new characters that are now canon in terms of this this book. So that's kind of cool. So here we go. Bo the Bold, they, them. Very cool. Earthbender. Or I'm sorry, Airbender. You have Chegu, also Airbender. Emma, or Ima, he, him. Technologist. Shirab, he, him. Airbender. Norbu. And I like that they don't give art, right? Because they kind of give you just a breakdown of the character, and you can sort of imagine how those characters look yourself, which I'm a big fan of. Now you have the 100-Year War. So this is pre-Aang. This is everything that the Fire Nation did while Aang was frozen in the north, or in the south. Yeah. So this is when like full Fire Nation genocide was happening all across the land. So yeah, it's pretty dark stuff. But Long Fang is in here. Dai Li agents, of course. Yeah, Fire Nation soldiers, important locations. So by Oasis is in here. That's kind of cool. And it gives you GM tips for all of the different eras, which is kind of cool. Jin Yi is Earthbender. Nalu the Hammer is a weapons expert. Lana is a technologist. Zemo is a fire. This is the first Fire Nation person that we've seen. Xiao, they, them, is weapons. Aaron Wind is the Aang era, so everything from Atla that you are familiar with. If you've only ever watched Atla and you haven't read the Kyoshi books, you haven't really delved deep really into the lore of Atla like as a whole. Let's say you haven't even watched Korra, you just know Atla from Atla. You can just play right as Aang and the gang are trying to train up Aang to take out Ozai. And you're going to see a lot of characters in here too that you might be used to seeing, or that you might be familiar with seeing, rather. Yeah, very cool. Bunch of different locations. Flamio Hot Springs. Taiki the Bold is a waterbender. These are all the pre-generated characters again. You have Lan, weapons expert. Kiku, the fire bender. Yu Zhuan, Forgive me if I'm butchering these names. They, them, technologist. Um, Chesa? Yeah. And lastly, Water and Mist is all Korra. So you have Empire City, and this is definitely going to be more focused on probably technology. At this point, there wasn't really a whole lot going on in terms of like world ending cataclysms, except for the whole thing with the spirit world. Um, I mean, this was like straight up national genocide in the earlier eras. This one, people have kind of calmed down a little bit, and now it's just one-off extremists and stuff who are trying to end the world rather than entire nations. Um, Thanks, Ang. Appreciate you. But there's a lot of stuff in here too, kind of cool. This one's definitely more of like a urban environment. Probably more of like a noir kind of thing, definitely more modern with like vehicles and mechs and stuff like that. So if you're kind of feeling more of like a Korra vibe, you could definitely do that here. And of course they have pre-generated characters. Wow, look at this. You have somebody who is training in two different trainings. You have they're a waterbending technologist. I didn't know you can multi-class like that. It's the first one that I've seen. And then it gives you this is an appendix of all the different techniques that you can do based on what training you have, and it tells you exactly how it happens. So fan the flame, evade and observe. So like in those cards, there were 3 different techniques that you can do in a combat. So you have to do evade and observe and whatever is required for that. And then this is one of the techniques that you could do. Focus on growing the flames around you. If there are no raging flames around you, then any small fires become raging. If there are raging flames around you, become empowered for the next 2 exchanges, whatever that means. Metal bending, I do like that they specify that. There is metal bending in here. I wonder if you could be like some kind of psychopath who does like blood bending and then just become like a brutal murderer type psycho, but whatever. Anyway, the book itself, pretty cool. I know I did a full flip through of it, but I didn't read through any of it, and I didn't explain any of it because I'm still unsure how this game system works. But overall, the quality of the book, the content within it is pretty cool. I mean, it's necessary, especially if you want to learn more about the different eras. It's great that it's in here. I'm also happy that it's in a separate book because I have a book over here that you can't see that's off camera that is like this thick, easily like this thick. But it has the DM stuff, player stuff, and even a monster manual all compiled into one book. So it's like super, super thick. Having 2 different books for that sort of stuff is really nice. I'm a big fan of that personally. More is more, but the overall like quality of the book, I mean, I could see why this got bent. Like I said before, it's nice that it's stitch bound, and it's nice that they added in a bookmark ribbon, but just be careful with this book for sure. Definitely don't throw it around if you can help it. And now we come down to the very last book. And I mentioned earlier that the book had 2 different variations. During the Kickstarter, you had the opportunity to choose between either Aang on the front cover or Korra on the front cover. And of course, I went with Aang. And as you can see, it is a foil covered book. It's a very limited, I mean, this print was only available for the Kickstarter as far as I'm aware. I don't think this was sent out to local game stores. I don't think you could buy the book like this. I think it might be the same art, just without the foil, without the shiny, which is kind of a shame. I feel like everybody should have this. I mean, especially with the quality of the book. Again, very thick book, and I can bend it very easily. So, you know, the quality of the book, like, what I'm saying is, it appears that the manufacturing process itself, although it's pretty decent quality material-wise in terms of gameplay material, but build material, that leaves a lot to be desired for sure. And I'm not saying that Magpie or Avatar Studios or whoever was specifically involved with the creation of these physical products cut any corners, but I have seen other books that, I mean, you can use as weapons. They're so sturdy and even thinner than this, and they do not bend and ply in the same way. So whatever kind of shortcomings that may have, the cost to create the books the way that they are right now absolutely could be applied to have sort of this finish on it for everybody to enjoy, not just Kickstarter backers. But I digress. So you have Korra in the back, and even just holding the book this way, it's flexing. I'm not really a big fan of that. Like the book just it flexes very, very easily. Like very easily. But I'm not trying to destroy the books. It's just I'm a little disappointed with the rigidity of them. So just overall, be careful. All right, this is cool. The inside of this is actually the shiny metallic blue material. Kind of a fan. That's a very nice thing to see as soon as you open up. Again, just like the other book, this is also stitch bound and with bookmarks. Now, as you can see, I just opened the book and there's already pretty extensive like hard crease lines in there, and that absolutely was not from doing this. It was from simply just opening the book. So I'd imagine that over time, this might even chip and break away, but I'm not sure. Also, again, another ding. It looks like it was dropped in this corner here, and because of the build quality itself, it was very easy for it to sort of crumble on both sides. You can see there. So, not particularly a fan of that, to be honest. The artwork's pretty cool. Kind of a fan of the artwork. It does remind me of some of the comic books, some of the graphic novels. So I'm not going to go through everything, but as you can see, there's a stitching. It does talk about the different eras. Gives you a brief synopsis of the different kingdoms. Talks about the different trainings. So basically your classes, right? Waterbending, earthbending, firebending, airbending, weapons, and technology. So you could be a waterbender who's living in the Fire Nation. Yeah, I don't think necessarily just because you are a airbender, for example, that you should be locked to any of the air nomad temples. Of course, unless you're playing through the Aang era, in which case you don't really have a choice. You're kind of not doing so hot. But it looks like because that book was dropped in the corner there, there is this really bad crease, and it continues on across all the pages. You see it right there? So it's kind of wild that it would cause like a shockwave of damage across all the pages, which is unfortunate. Okay, so it talks about how to play, all that stuff. Here is a specific breakdown of the world map and where current key locations are in the game world. And again, now this is canon, so if you ever really, really, really wanted to know where let's see, the Natsu Island is. It's number 18. It's right there. And I do like that there is little tags next to it that talks about when this happened. So Korra era, Kyoshi era, Roku era, Aang era, and I don't know what HY is. They talked about it in the beginning, I think. 100-Year War. Okay, so 100-Year War era. So yeah, that's where and when these locations existed. Talks a little bit about the water tribes. There's also Wolf Cove, the Foggy Swamp. So if you want to be some swamp benders, you can absolutely do that. Kyoshi Island, Omashu, Agni Kai's. You can participate in that for sure. Air Nomad tattoos. So there's a lot of lore, both on the cultures and the locations. Spirit World, it talks about the technology that existed, which is kind of cool. So in the Kyoshi era, bronze single-shot hand cannon was made with Fire Nation explosives, a rudder designed for steering larger vessels, allowing the water tribes to dominate the oceans during this era, an extensive collection of building plans made by air nomads on their travels to other nations. And then you go all the way to Korra, and then, you know, motorcycles, electrified batons, portable cameras, so you're definitely more modern there as well. Talks about navigating the different eras, and then it breaks down all of the different eras with the Kyoshi era, and talks about, you know, very specific themes that are happening during the Kyoshi era. I know that it was an era of some really serious upheaval, and it says there abuse of authority. There was a lot of bad that happened during the Kyoshi era, which is why a lot of people like the books, because it's very gritty. Like, it's definitely more dark than the lighthearted nature of Avatar, like Aang's Avatar era. And it talks about all the different nations and what to expect within that era, you know, what existed as far as water tribes and earth tribes and stuff like that. 100-Year War, a world without an avatar, so there is no avatar in here, which makes it pretty cool. Air nomad genocide. Yeah. So it's actually kind of sad that they had Gyatso right there. General Iroh, of course, during this point, he was absolutely fighting the war, I believe. And yeah, so Cabbage Merchant, it's kind of cool. Fundamentals of play. I do like this art. Big fan of the art. It's very well done. And it just breaks down how to play. I'm not going to go over this stuff. If you want a more deeper, in-depth review of like the gameplay mechanics and stuff like that, I'm sure there are people out there on YouTube who have experience playing with like this game system across different or other games using this game system. It's kind of weird that the character making is so late into the book. Normally that's like the first thing that tabletop RPGs tend to do. But it walks you through it, tells you how to do it, how to create characters. Kind of cool. Names, the meanings of those names. That's kind of rad. And again, it really just goes over the mechanics of the game itself and how they function. Advancements, you can make custom moves, different approaches, status effects. We kind of know the status effects, basic techniques, and then there are more specific techniques. Here's actually an extended example of play. So you can kind of get a better idea of how the game actually works by reading these few pages. It might have been wise to put this stuff at the beginning of the game or at the beginning of the book. Like, here is how you play the game. They have to be aware that most people are probably coming from 5th edition D&D and that this system is completely different from that. So it might be worthwhile to have these people, like, to have players understand as soon as they open the book, like, what to expect in terms of gameplay. Again, artwork looks great. Toph looks awesome here. The one thing that they definitely got down really, really well is the art in this book. It just looks amazing. And then you have the core playbooks, which again is the classes for your character, so to speak. This is pretty much fundamentally what determines what kind of character they are, what their principles are, what their demeanors are, what gear they start with, that sort of thing. It's pretty much just like encompassing the entire character creation. This Fire Nation character looks awesome. I'm getting like Legend of Zelda, like Gerudo Valley kind of vibes with that. This is pretty dope. Big fan of this artwork. It's very animated. The Bold, so this looks like Korra era with those wing suits. Although I'm assuming that you can use this across any of the eras, which is kind of cool. Guardian, here you got a waterbender. Again, big fan of the artwork here. Big fan. The hammer, this is pretty cool. It's like the sandbender folks when Appa was kidnapped. It kind of feels, yeah, see, said sandbending. Very cool. I like the design, the coloration of it all. You got an earthbender, also pretty cool. I'm digging the turban and the jewelry and like the gold accents on the boots and stuff like that. Very cool. He's got like some kind of lizard mount. Pretty dope. The Idealist, that looks like a cannon on the end of a staff. Pretty dope. And all the different moves that they can do specifically. The pillar, you have a, is that a swamp? Yeah, that's one of those swamp folks, I think, only because of the hat. I could be wrong though, but it looks like he is bending water, and he doesn't look like a waterbender, so I think he's a swamp boy. Again, really cool artwork. Big fan of it. The Prodigy, this is pretty dope. I'm a big fan of this. Reminds me of the one avatar. I forget her name, but she had a hairstyle similar to this. She was also an air nomad. If you know in the chat, or if you in the chat, look at me. If you know in the comments, or if you know, let me know in the comments. I forget what avatar that was that had that hairstyle where it was like shaved back and her hairline was pushed back, and I think it was braided. And I know that she had children. That's all I know. The Rogue. Okay, so it looks like he's a firebender who creates fire daggers. He's a beefy boy. I like the art though. Big fan of the art. This waterbender looks cool. I think that might be Northern Water Tribe, because that doesn't look like Southern Water Tribe garb. Pretty cool though. Big fan of that. Oh, dude. Okay, so this might very well be my favorite picture in the whole book, across all the books so far. She just looks badass here. This looks really cool. Big fan of this. So advancements, basically how you level up your character, how you improve your skills, how all that works. Because I don't know how, to be honest. I know it's not as simple as like, oh, you're now a level 2. Oh. You're not like a level 2 airbender. You're an airbender who now knows different techniques, who has been training, their skills have become more refined. It's not as granular as level 1, level 3, level 6. It's more just levels of or a gradient of experience, if you will. Yeah. Love that. Love that. Okay, so GM's role, pretty much what a GM does, how the GM runs this, different guidelines, different moves that the GMs can do, how to make the game more interesting for the players. Once you get to a certain point, the rest of the book is pretty much, oh, that Kyoshi is sick, dude. Tough. Seen that artwork plenty of times before, so maybe I was wrong with all original artwork. Unless they redrew it for this book, I don't know, but I've definitely seen her in that pose before. In other Avatar material. Running a fight scene is how combat actually works. And I would read this, but, you know, there's a lot to... I'm trying to cut this down, and I'm still well over an hour with this video. There was a lot in this box. I swear the next unboxing that we do is going to be a lot more succinct and contained. There's just a lot of material in this Kickstarter. This Kiyoshi is sick. This, I don't know. Again, the artwork, they nailed the artwork in this. I'm a big fan. How to run a game, how to craft sessions. Oh, and Papu. Finally, Sokka gets some love. But only just barely. Adventure tools, special circumstances, clocks, adventure hooks. That's kind of cool that they give you adventure hooks. The Vanishing Act. Oh, they give you pre-generated adventures, which is nice too. I'm very happy about that. And then we have the different techniques for all of the classes, as well as NPCs. So they're not named, they just give you a basic breakdown of the different NPCs and you can name them yourself, which is kind of nice. And they have major, minor, master, NPC groups. And then of course you have the legendary NPCs such as Kiyoshi. Awesome that she's in here. Roku, also awesome that he's in here. How to play him, what his techniques are. Of course you have Iroh. You have Aang, you have Korra, and yeah. And then this is I'm happy that they added this. I would definitely, like, as a GM and as a player, I would absolutely make like photocopies of these and sort of create my own GM screen, because that would be super useful. And then you have the character sheet. So now we get a good look at what the character sheet looks like. We haven't seen it at all. And there's no booklet of just pre-printed ones, which honestly I think I would have preferred that over those smaller notebooks. I would rather have a packet of character creation worksheets, or at least just character sheets in general. I think this is just how you go about rounding out the lore of your character rather than the actual character sheet itself. But we have all that. We have NPC stuff here, which is kind of nice. Game Master reference sheet. And then, of course, you have the index for the book. More adventures await. magpiegames.com/avatar-rpg. And then we have that same like metallic blue material, which looks really awesome. And then we have Korra on the back of the book. So overall, the content that they got, or that I got with this Kickstarter, I'm happy with the number of just material items that came with this. The dice were cool. The map is excellent. The dice bags look great, and they feel great, and they feel high quality. Again, the map, absolutely awesome. This Pai Sho piece, or the White Lotus piece, really, really cool. Guys, these books, though, the overall build quality of these books, I mean, for one, they are stitch bound. They are bookmarked with ribbons, which, I mean, in today's day and age with tabletop RPGs, that should just be a no-brainer. They should just exist in those books. And again, there are multi-million-dollar companies that don't even do that. They still glue bind their books and don't use stitching at all unless you buy like an $80 special edition or whatever. But this, just the basic book itself, comes with those features. But again, very flimsy, damaged upon arrival. Same thing with the actual core rule book itself. Damaged, very flexible, but also has the stitch bound and the bookmarking ribbons. The quality of these little notebooks, pretty decent. Not bad. Not bad. I feel like you're going to need a lot of these. Truly. Unless you use them as a GM, but at that point, you're better off just using any random notebook that you may have laying around. I would rather, like, these are cool. Truly. I would rather 4 of these. I'm guessing it's for 4 players and 1 GM, maybe, to take notes. but I would rather 4 of these and then a booklet of character sheets. I think that would have made more sense, but I don't know. I'm not a game developer yet, so. But yeah, so far I'm pretty lukewarm with the build quality of most of this stuff. But the content itself is pretty great. And it does seem like, for the most part, they definitely put in some love and care and attention when it comes to certain products. And it definitely feels like that they cut corners with others, including the actual core rule books that you're going to be using all the time. But overall, that is the Avatar Legends Kickstarter bundle. One last thing. This is no exaggeration. This is something that I absolutely have to knock Magpie Games for. Okay? Look at this. Oh, it's still going. There's no need for all of this plastic. There's no need for it. That, like, because it didn't protect nothing. It didn't protect anything. Maybe from water damage, sure, I guess. But the book still got damaged on the shipping. Whatever. This is just a waste of plastic. Like, this is an ungodly amount of plastic that I feel is completely unnecessary. Oh, I missed a baggie. Sorry, there's one more to add there. Oh, I missed another one. There's another one. But yeah, not a fan of the excess use of the plastic. Anyway, that was the Avatar Legends book. I will read through this, and I'm definitely going to be playing this with my partner and possibly some friends. We'll do like a one shot and read over the books at some point in the future, and hopefully I can come back and give some feedback as to how the game actually plays, because it is a brand new system. We don't really know how it works yet. But it does look interesting, especially if you're a fan of Atla. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming to check out this unboxing / first look at Avatar Legends, the role-playing game by Magpie Games. Again, this was a Kickstarter. I don't know when those books are going to be available in store or on their website. They might already be available to purchase and ship from their website, but don't quote me on that. As of right now, I haven't checked. But some quick plugs. Be sure to check out the Crithalla podcast that myself, Dan, and Mike run. We have a show on there we have 2 shows called DMs Discuss and Talking Tabletop. DMs Discuss, we just go over a bunch of different topics relating to tabletop RPGs for game masters and players alike, tackling a lot of really difficult topics, such as the difference or the pros and cons of playing virtually as opposed to playing in person, or how to deal with very difficult players. It's mostly just guides and tips for people who are just kind of stepping into the tabletop hobby as a whole, as well as giving our own expertise and advice across a multitude of different topics, if you will. And then the second show, Talking Tabletop, like I mentioned earlier, is something new that we started where we pretty much go over, each of us will each go over a different game system, kind of pitch the idea of playing the game to both you, the viewer, and to the rest of the co-hosts. And at the end of each season, which is only 3 episodes, we'll have you guys vote on which game system you like the best, and we'll do a one-shot of them, whatever that may be. So thanks again, guys. My name is Stavi. Hopefully you can check out all that stuff. Links are in the description for the podcast, as well as the Facebook page, Crithalla D&D Memes. And we will see you in the next unboxing. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.